Hey guys, so it's been a while since I've made a video. I've had a bit of a break in January of filming because I've been so busy with work and life and stuff. But I wanted to come back and do a review of my year of rest and relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. Probably said that wrong. Yeah, this was on my list last year and it was one of my most anticipated books. I'd seen it doing the rounds on Instagram and TikTok and that kind of a thing, and I thought it sounded really interesting. I thought I would give it a go. It has a fairly good rating on Goodreads. It's got like I think 3.70 star review, which is pretty good. People seem to be quite polarised about it. It's either like a 5-star fantastic must-read book, or people give it a 1 star and they say it's stupid and boring and they absolutely hated it. And I can see why it's one of those books. You're basically following a 20-something-year-old woman, and she is basically going through quite a severe depressive episode in her life, and she basically decides to just sleep for an entire year. She goes to her therapist, she gets a ton of different kind of medication to help her sleep, and this whole book is just centered around what's happening to her in her life, what happens when she wakes up, how she feels. She has one friend throughout this book who I also became quite attached to as a character. Her friend's quite selfish and quite self-absorbed, but then so is the main character. I feel like the main character is written not as if you're supposed to like her. She doesn't come across as a likeable person. She basically doesn't care about anything or anyone. She just wants to sleep. And you go through her daily routines of her, you know, getting her coffee in the morning and then going home and then basically taking her pills and just sleeping. All she does is sleep and watch VCR videos and then, you know, bitch about her friend. But there's something about this book that I really enjoyed it. Nothing particularly happens in this book, as you can probably guess. It's just like you're basically reading just an inner monologue of this woman's life as she's going through depression. It's a very accurate description of depression. If you've ever gone through a depressive episode or you have depression yourself, there are moments where she says stuff and you're like, yeah, I can actually really relate to that. I can see where she's coming from. Even when she does come across as incredibly selfish and self-absorbed, when you're in that kind of mindset, I feel like the way the author wrote it is just very accurate. And it was really interesting. There were also some comical moments in this book, things that happen. There are parts where there's a little bit of an unreliable narrator because she's on so much medication. She goes through periods where she's sleepwalking and does stuff she doesn't really remember. So there are some interesting parts that happen in this book, particularly towards the end of this book. You don't really get a sense like she's going to resolve anything in this. It's just like this weird kind of experiment she's putting herself through just to kind of see what will happen. Like, she's basically just given up. She just doesn't care anymore and she just wants to sleep. I also really enjoyed her friendship with her only friend Riva. Like I said, Riva's quite self-absorbed as well, and how they play off each other is quite interesting. The dynamic of their friendship, you know, when you start reading about it, you're like, why are these two people friends? Like, they're obviously both quite lonely people, and it's like they don't really like each other, but they both kind of need each other. And there's a part that happens in this book, particularly towards the end, where they're having a conversation. It's like the last few chapters, and Riva brings up something and you're like, oh shit, like something's gonna happen here, and you know what's gonna happen before it happens, and you're like, this is gonna be like a moment in her life almost like a life-changing moment, or maybe like a realisation for her friend, or realisation for the main person in this book, who I don't think you ever actually find out her name. I was thinking when I was just about to click the camera to press record on this video, I was like, I can't remember the main character's name, which is weird because I really enjoyed it, like I said. And I flicked back through a couple pages and I even looked at some Goodreads reviews, and I don't think you actually ever find out her name, which I find interesting. But yeah, there's a part that really hits you at the end of this book. Particularly the last sentence of this book I thought was really, really good. And a lot of people have described this book as either one, you're either going to get it or you're not going to get it. And some people did get it and they still didn't like it. But I feel like I did understand where this author was coming from, and it just really engrossed me. I just find it really fascinating. I really wanted to get to know this character and see where it was going, even though you kind of get a sense that it wasn't really going anywhere. Where it does kind of, there is a kind of a little bit more towards the end, which is going to be hard to describe, which I don't want to say anything because I don't want to give it away, because when I read it I was just like, oh okay, I didn't know that was going to happen, and it just really stuck with me. I finished reading it and I like went and described it to my husband and told him what was happened, and then it sat with me for a few more days afterwards. And it's one of those books where I'm definitely going to reread it at some point. I will say there are definite triggers in this book. I went in knowing not too much about it, other than it was a woman who was going to sleep for a year, and you're basically reading her, you know, monologue as she does this. But I didn't know much else about what was going to be in it, but I do feel like there are definite trigger warnings for this book. Obviously depression, which I knew was going to be in it, but like I've said before, I actually quite enjoy reading books from a depressed person's point of view. I don't know what that says about me, but I just do. And there were also trigger warnings, I feel like, you know, for grief and also for eating disorders. Her best friend has an eating disorder, so I feel like there are a couple of trigger warnings that you should consider before going into this book. But I really enjoyed it. I feel like if you really enjoyed Convenience Store Woman, you might also really enjoy this, because I loved that book, and that one also sat with me for a little while, and I really liked this book as well. I found that I'm trying to expand more genres of reading, and I seem to just really enjoy books, yeah, that centre around depressed people who are not particularly nice people, but they're interesting to read about. I don't have to like the main character to enjoy a book. If you are someone who does really like to connect with and really yeah, have to find the main character likeable, then you're probably not going to like this story. But I really, really enjoyed it. I'm intrigued to read more by this author. This is the only book I've read by her. But yeah, I'm definitely intrigued to read more by her. It says here it's a relentlessly savage fable of privilege and pain. Which is true. She's a very, you know, like I said, very privileged young woman. She basically was left a bunch of money so that she didn't have to work. So, you know, she's very stable. She doesn't really have much to be depressed about, and yet she still has depression. And like I said, just the depiction of mental health in this book I feel is really, really good, and very accurate. So yeah, I don't want to say too much. I'm thinking about maybe doing a more in-depth review where I can talk a bit more about what happens during the ending. But yeah, it's hard to describe. There was just something about it. I took my time reading it. I read it over a couple of weeks. Like I said, I've been really busy recently and I've been struggling to pick up books to read. But this one, I found myself specifically making time for it. Like, yeah, I want to continue with this book. I would read a couple of chapters a day, and towards the end, I did kind of like get stuck in towards the end. I found it a bit difficult to put down. But yeah, it was just one of those books that really stuck with me. Yeah, if you're a fan of Convenience Store Woman, then definitely give this one a look at, because you may also enjoy this one as well. So yeah, let me know if you have any thoughts down below. Like I said, it was quite polarising. When you look on Goodreads, people are like, I love this book, I love what the author was trying to say, I really enjoyed you know, the narration of the main character. And then there are a bunch of 1-star reviews that are like, I hate this book, it was stupid, the concept is awful, it's badly executed. So it's very, you know, polarised. But I am in the camp of, I really did enjoy this. I found it really interesting, and I'm definitely glad I picked it up. Quite a few books I've picked up recently that were on my you know, wanting to read list. This was definitely one of them, and a lot of them have been really good so far. So yeah, this is one of my ones where I'm like, definitely go check it out. It's set in the year 2000, which I liked reading because, I don't know, just brought memories back from the 2000s, so that was fun as well. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. Are you thinking about picking this book up? Let me know, and let me know your thoughts. So as always, thank you for watching. Until next time, bye guys.